right, one more of these can introduce a video because these are the videos that were part of the Convergence Preaching and Worship Online Summit that I hosted. And we brought in preachers, we brought in worship leaders, and we brought in digital ministers. And I'm sharing all the digital ministers with you here. And the fourth one is Reverend Dr. Sarah TevisTownes. Sarah is incredible in so many ways and spaces. She's a local church pastor in New Mexico who has a huge impact in online spaces. So we'll talk a lot about how those two worlds coexist and intersect, and Sarah just has so much wisdom. She literally has a doctorate in this digital ministry stuff. It's brilliant. And you should be following her on TikTok and Instagram and all the spaces. Disorganized.religion is her handle. Okay, let's go check out this conversation with me and Sarah. Hello and welcome back to another conversation in this Preaching and Worship Online Summit, where we look at what does it mean to preach and lead worship for such a time as this. In addition to the ways that this all happens in our buildings and in the traditional sense of church, we want to continue leaning into what does it mean for online spaces and people who are doing digital ministry, which is why today we're talking with the Reverend Dr. Sarah TevisTownes. Got to make sure we put that doctor in there. First, Sarah, what is your demon in? Give us a quick reminder what that focus was.
So, digital tools for decolonization. And,
a simple, everyday, Thanksgiving family conversation right there.
Yeah, digital ministries decolonial praxis is the official title. So, yeah.
What we need to have as more commonplace in our seminaries and all the ways that faith leaders are learning. So, Sarah, you bring not only your expertise in the doctoral work you've done, but then you literally are on the ground doing it. And so you wear lots of hats, as clergy people tend to do. You are a pastor at a church in New Mexico. I want to say with a slight question mark. Yes, Church of the Good Shepherd, COGS. I always remember it because of that. And are you the only clergy on staff? Is it you and a few other support?
I'm the only clergy on staff.
So you are doing solo pastor life, and then this thing called the internet seemed to come up. So let's just start with that. You have a bit of a fingerprint in these online spaces. Talk about where you are in these online spaces, what you do in these online spaces, and how you got started in that.
Sure. So I started during the pandemic with disorganized.religion on TikTok. My church administrator recommended I get on there to publicize our Easter services, actually. And I said, all right, why not? And the ministry grew quickly. And then I also connected with other progressive clergy who are doing the same kind of thing. It started out with 12 of us. Now there are over 350 of us who are doing digital ministry together. And we organized offline on Zoom. We collaborated. We really built a movement on the TikTok platform. And we reach millions and millions of people every week with this message of hope and liberation. And since TikTok is, maybe banned every few months, we're not sure, we've expanded to other places, Blue Sky, YouTube, Instagram. A ministry there looks like a lot of different things. Some of it is just a video, right? I just did a video about Lent. It's educational, people can interact in the comments. But then there's also the live stream. So every Friday I try to go live for an hour or two, and we talk about theological topics. We might talk about, often we talk about whatever I'm preaching on Sunday. But people get to ask questions and interact in community. And over the years, it's built really a core group of people that come every week. Yeah.
Well, and I think even just that tactic of going live on Friday as you prep for a sermon on Sunday is, I think every pastor should do that, because you might want to, try out those ideas on those last few days before. And some pastors might think, but what if my parishioners are watching and then it spoils the sermon? I don't think that's the problem. I think it's probably a good thing to give them more information. And like you're well aware, you're going to reach so many other people with what you're trying to talk about. Say a bit more about just that Friday live, how the sermon prep comes into it. That's a really fun idea.
Sure. So, and I do have church members who come, which is fantastic, because then you have the in-person community interacting with the online community, and there's crossover. They have different questions, different experiences. The online community tends to skew a little bit younger, the in-person a little bit older, and so you also get intergenerational conversations, which are incredibly meaningful. And we get to talk with people all over the world. So certainly TikTok Live, people scrolling through, TikTok will just feed them my live stream. On Instagram, you have to subscribe to me in order to come to my live stream. But, we have people from Australia, we have people from, where else? From India, the Philippines, all over the world. And so that adds a massive uh, level, like it's just a different dimension. You get more diverse perspectives.
What is it? How would you describe just like the difference in the way you step into these online pulpits as opposed to the more traditional brick and mortar ones? You get to do both every week pretty
Yeah.
much, so you are really living the full spectrum of ministry right now. But in regards to the ways that the pulpit in our pocket allows us to reach and engage with so many people, how would you describe kind of the different ways that you think about stepping into that space or entering that space?
Well, I think they've merged a little bit. So
Yeah.
since I've been on TikTok, my in-person ministry when I'm preaching has become more interactive. So
Hmm.
I'm doing more asking questions, inviting people to share testimony even, which is different than what we used to do. Um, and I have a small enough congregation that that's possible.
Yeah.
So um, I'm going to walk with you while I let out my dog. Um, I think the online space, you're responding to people directly in real time. And, you're responding to what's in the room. I think that's very similar to what we do from the pulpit.
Yeah.
The difference is you don't, like in the United Church of Christ church I serve, we do have some theological diversity, but we're really kind of on the same page about most things. But in a live stream, I'll have people who are Buddhist, who are Jewish, who are ex-evangelical, who are atheists, some folks who are fairly conservative Christians. And so the conversation goes some different directions than it might. But yeah, it's spontaneous and it's always so good. I always get tons out of it, and they bring perspectives I never would have thought of. You also get live feedback, which you don't always get from the pulpit, right? People after church will be like, oh, that was thought provoking, or I like that, or right? But you don't get 30,000 comments, right? Like telling you in real time what people really think.
For good or for not so good, I'm
Good or
sure.
not so good. Yeah.
But even hearing you describe like that lineup of kind of even identities and values and faith traditions who will show up in that online space with you,
Yeah.
uh, imagine how would they ever show up in a physical space together? It's not like it doesn't happen. There are gatherings that bring
Right.
that diversity, but it would be rare for your UCC church in New Mexico to suddenly see all of those beautiful diversities show up together. But the beauty of these online spaces is it just makes that so possible for you to have that engagement there.
And they could show up for 5 minutes or 10
Yeah.
minutes. I think it's a massive privilege to have the amount of time to go to a hour-long church service. A lot of people don't have an entire hour on a Sunday, or they work on Sundays. People are extremely busy. So to be able to pop in while they're doing their chores at home and interact with a religious figure and with other people who are interested in the Bible and in Jesus and the life of Jesus, uh, it just makes all of it more accessible.
Yeah, accessibility is a good key word there because, like you said, the who has an hour. Some people do, and it's not we should say give up the
I'm so
practice
glad
of
they do,
gathering.
right?
Yeah, but for the people who all they're going to have is that moment of swiping, for you to be something that's present in that space in their life, that literally is could be the moment that impacts so many moments to come, and you just chose to show up in that way. They were there to receive it, and suddenly, I mean, it's the same kind of thing we think when we're preaching in a room. We never know how someone's going to hear this sermon.
Right?
It's like the same is true in these things.
Yeah. And it actually gets people in in-person community. There hasn't been
Yeah.
a live stream ever that I've done where I haven't encouraged people to find in-person community. So I've connected tons of people to churches in their local area, tons of folks
Yeah.
to churches in my local area. A bunch of my TikTok fans have ended up coming to my church. I shouldn't say a bunch, a few, a handful. But what a great opportunity.
Yeah.
And the reach is
How,
just so much bigger.
yeah. A lot of us in the clergy world might have an idea of how to write a traditional sermon. You stand and say to a group of people. when you are preparing what you're going to be offering in these digital spaces, I'm thinking of your videos. You have a whole,
Mm,
you have definitely have a certain approach to it.
I do.
How do you go about even crafting that kind of experience?
So for a 1 minute video, are you talking about? Uh, yeah, because for an hour-long conversation, you know, you can follow the flow of where the comments are coming from. But for a minute-long video, I usually address one question. And I use two characters. I use dialogue. So I have a character named Karen who's in a lot of my videos, but I have some others. And Karen will say things like, "Do we really need a rainbow flag on the church? And in the youth room? And in the sanctuary?" Right? And I'll say, yes, yes, we do, right? And here's why. And then by the end, Karen gets it, right? Within a minute. But I think those dialogues are helpful. We can address questions that come up a lot for us as clergy. I don't use questions that my church folks have brought up to me recently because I don't want to, right? Uh, embarrass them or,
Which you
right? Those
probably
are
wouldn't do
private
from the
pastoral
pulpit
conversations.
either. You wouldn't be like, I have some questions I want to raise from. It would feel a similar kind of maybe spotlighting it for millions of people might even feel like a bigger breach of trust and exposure. But that's just a good pastoral sensibility for
Yeah.
how we handle congregants' realities and lives in any pulpit we're stepping into. But yeah, yeah, yeah,
But it helps with preaching, right? So I do
yeah.
use my TikTok videos and sermons all the time. We have a screen
Really?
since the pandemic all the time. Yeah. The other thing is I can co-preach with another video creator. So my
Hmm.
friend Sean, for example, who's a Black Pentecostal preacher from Tennessee. So comes from a very different theological and social and cultural perspective, but he and I are best friends. So
Yeah.
I can do half, we'll write a sermon ahead of time. He'll record his part,
Hmm.
and then I can dialogue with him for the sermon. So I can say, "Hey, Sean, what do you think about Pentecost as a Pentecostal?" And then I'll press play, and Sean will tell us, right?
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. It
You
takes out
can
all
bring in different
the hair of
voices, right?
like, yeah, yeah, and then there's no like, is the Zoom connection going to break down? It's all you have, it's happening, but yet it allows for that interaction. And then
Yeah.
I love even the way it's like it's a connection you have in these online spaces. You bring it into the physical space. It's really merging all those worlds and ecosystems all together.
Right.
That's
And then we can
fantastic.
lift each other up, right? So I could say, hey, this is a great video. So it is very common that I play videos from other progressive clergy TikTok creators as a part of my worship service, whether it's during the sermon or during the announcements or during a time of prayer or reflection. And then people get to hear from different voices, different faces, different uh, right. I'm the only clergy person. We have clergy people in the congregation as well that are retired clergy folks, but
Yeah, yeah.
what a gift to hear
What
from
a
a
gift.
Presbyterian or a Mennonite or right.
Yeah, and it's not like these things weren't possible prior to the pandemic, but I feel
Right.
like that moment, which lasted, it wasn't just a snap. It lasted at Riverside where I serve, 18 months we were online only for a good chunk of time. But I think that impacted how we think about bringing in digital things to the physical space and how we think about interacting. And like you said too, that's kind of what dipped your toe into these waters of TikTok and so many things. And here we are 5 years later, and you're telling millions of people about why we take Sundays off in Lent and all those lovely liturgical Trivial Pursuit facts that they might need
Yeah.
someday. You never know.
And it surprises me sometimes. Right now, the thing my fans want to hear most about is UCC polity. Right? I could do some videos about polity. How exciting, though, that we get to teach about the way
Yeah.
that we're set up.
Yeah.
People are hungry for the good
Yeah.
news
They love
and
quirky stuff.
polity.
That's awesome. And polity. Yeah. Maybe the polity could be good news. I don't know. We'll
It
see.
can be, right? It's part of how we share it.
Yeah.
Um, I think progressive Christians are a little bit hesitant about evangelism, but that's what this
Yeah.
is. We're
Yeah.
getting the word out.
Yeah, and in some ways, you think about yes, we need to continue to have great preaching from the pulpits in sanctuaries across the country. Let's not stop doing that. But so often those words just really echo off the walls and the people in the room. Yeah, you can broadcast, live stream, YouTube, shorts. There's lots of good
Yeah,
strategies we can all
we
be
do
doing.
all that,
But
right?
when you're doing this, you're doing it contextually for these people who access it in that way. You're not preaching to the room and then broadcasting it online second. You're preaching to the people wherever and however they are first, and it allows them to engage it. And it becomes, like you said, that scary E word progressives avoid. It allows us to proclaim this good news by any media necessary.
Yeah.
I think that is so essential. So where
Them
might all
healing,
this be
right?
going? Yeah,
Huh?
yeah. Where might all this be going? You are the Reverend Doctor Digital Minister. Uh, how should we anticipate kind of the next steps of what preaching and worship, especially in online spaces, might continue to be reimagined and evolve to? Should we just give it up? Is it a fad? Is it over? Or is there like this seems to be the space to lean into? We all know that TikTok is giving us whiplash. What would you say?
I think we lean into both. I mean, I always have, and people say, well, are you a digital minister or in person? I think you can do both.
Yeah.
I've moved on to Instagram, and it's much more local. It's been a phenomenal networking opportunity. So I think I'll still do digital shorts on Instagram, and I don't know about live streaming because it doesn't reach anybody that hasn't already been reached. But the nice thing about Instagram is you can collaborate. So I can do a video and tag you in it, and then it goes to your entire audience as well. It has been phenomenal for community organizing. I think as the world gets scarier, some of us want to go underground a little bit. And so more of my videos are about how do you build community right where you are. You know, how do you educate yourself? How do you get involved in mutual aid? How do you find networks of support right where you are? I think that will continue to be incredibly important.
Yeah, and these
But
online
there are
tools can
also some
help with
people who
that.
can't access it because they're homebound or they have
Yeah, yeah.
disabilities. They have, yeah, different issues. And so, yeah, I think we need both.
We need both. We
Yeah,
absolutely need both. And
I
it's
think,
and I love how you even say, some people say, are you a in-person pastor? Are you a digital pastor? Yes, and I think
yeah,
that needs to be the answer. We need more and more people for whom, this is just an extension of how we live. I've often said that every pastor is probably already a digital minister as long as they've been sending emails because you're using digital media ministry to reach people. You just didn't realize it until I told you. But more and more need to just embrace the digital aspects of our life and lean into them for ministry like you're doing. We don't all have to get a doctorate in it, I suppose, but we should all be intentional about how we use it.
yeah. And if you want to learn more about that, I mean, my dissertation's online on a website. I have a whole lot about congregational tools. It's okay if I share the website.
Please, I point people
It's
to it often, by the way,
disorganized. It's disorganizedreligion.fun. So
because disorganized religion should be fun, right?
it should be fun. And the reality is, I say disorganized religion, but we did organize. We used it as a tool to organize a progressive Christian movement, and it can be really effective in that way. If you do that work of collaborating, my churches end up collaborating with a lot of different groups, including the teachers union, including, different local groups that are doing things that are values aligned with us. We've found those partnerships on places like Instagram.
Yeah. All right. So maybe you've said Instagram a lot. Maybe that's your answer here. But if you could pick just one online space for ministry, what would you lean into and pick?
Discord.
Discord. Oh, throwing a little left hook in there. Okay.
I
Yeah.
so if I only did digital ministry, I would do digital ministry on Discord. And then I'd use Instagram, TikTok to draw people to that community.
Yeah.
You've done a phenomenal video on Discord in the past that's up on YouTube.
Really, Nathan Webb did the work there. He's
Nathan
the one
Webb
who,
did a
yeah.
phenomenal video. But it allows you to be part of the community 24/7.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
share music, you can share part of your life, you can share when you're playing games, you can have different chats about all different topics, and you can do worship, and you can do meetings. I just think it's a really versatile tool, and
Yeah.
there's more to it. I think, yeah, Blue Sky, like Twitter, is a good way to direct people to a place like Discord. But in terms of community building, I don't think I've seen anything that really matches that yet.
Yeah. Well, I think I love how we went from talking about Instagram and all these things in TikTok to suddenly everyone's going to be Googling what is Discord.
What
So
is
that's
there's a learning curve, right? But I do think Yeah, I think the title of your video is like why every church should have a Discord, and
Yeah.
mine doesn't yet. And
Mine doesn't either, but I'm inching us towards when can we test it is kind of the window I'm
yeah,
looking for.
but
Yeah.
if you're looking for a good one to check out, the podcast, The Word in Black and Red, has a phenomenal Discord community. So that's a podcast, but the podcast points people to this Discord channel where they can keep talking about the topics that come up in the podcast and become this
Yeah.
incredible community. But you need moderators and you need time and effort, and I'm
Yeah.
moderating an in-person community right now, so
You got a few things going on. You got a few things going on. Well, in the midst of all the things you got going on, I'm grateful that this conversation could be a part of it. Sarah, I know we could talk for hours about all this stuff, so we'll have to do it again. But thank you for everything you've shared. I know people probably are taking notes and have ideas on not only how they can bring someone's TikTok into their sermon in this physical space, but how they can take their sermon into the digital space. So thank you, everyone. Check out all the links and everything she's just said. So much good stuff here, and don't forget to watch the next video in this series. Talk to you soon, Sarah. Told you it was a good one. Yep, I'm not lying to you. And that was number 4 of this series. There'll be more. I always want to share the resources I make with you, and I'm going to make some new ones for you. So, but for now, before we get to the new ones, let's finish up this one. You know the drill. Leave a comment, leave a question, leave a snide remark. Share what you're thinking and feeling after watching that conversation. And then I promise I'll be back with something. We'll see what it is. It's going to be good. I'll make sure it's good. I'll see you there.